Welcome. Welcome to Pacific Unitarian Universalist Church's virtual service. It's November 22nd, the Sunday before Thanksgiving, and we're glad you've joined us. A couple announcements coming up. We are having for kids with Rainbow Services, who we just ran a food donation program. We want to thank George and Marianne Stein and all those participating in our Soup for Two program, which is soup for those lucky enough to purchase it, and social benefit to a food program in the local area. This last month we gave to the South Bay's Food Initiative. So that's going to be something that's going to continue every other week, basically, the first and third of the month, starting continuing in January. And great soup and a good cause. Let's see, we have a hike starting this week. We want to be outdoors as much as we can, and we also want to be fit. So we're going to gather here at a quarter of 1 on Wednesday, and then if you want to meet up at the hill, there's an address you'll see on the website if you want to just join us up there. We're going to, caravan up safely and walk along the sort of ridge line up among the suburban homes in PV. We might turn these hikes into hikes that are designed to experience awe, which is where we're working on the details of that. We're also going to add a new Zoom call and start in December for those particularly who are home, who live alone or are singles or just feeling maybe a little bit isolated. We're going to try to make sure we reach everyone in this community. There's lots of ways people connect, but when we physically don't gather, obviously that's a challenge for us. So we're working on that. This Thursday on Thanksgiving at 11, we're going to open up the Zoom call for anyone who just wishes to drop in, kind of like we did just during the election night, just a chance for us to communicate with one another virtually on Thanksgiving and wish each other well and talk about how we burned the yams and such things. I want to lift up that our facilities wing, which is this beautiful campus, and these two guys who have managed it, Mike Mutita and Bruce Lewis, are both stepping down from their roles there, and that means a gap, but it really means that we need to celebrate them. Those two and their meeting, their jovial style of getting stuff done was sort of really kind of a marvel. A lot of laughs and a lot of great work done by two talented guys. So I want everyone at home to thank Mike and Bruce for their services, and for anyone who has an interest in facilities and managing what is unquestionably a gorgeous campus, to please do so. We have Virginia or Schwartz paintings. Julia Schwartz paintings, as they're online. You can go purchase some of them. And we've got a number of people gathering outside, so it might be helpful to have some folks bring some chairs outside to some of our folks. People can come if they want to experience the service. We're going to open the doors and people are going to sit outside, but we're really trying to encourage people to do this virtually. But there's always a place for you here. This Sunday Zoom call on race, which we've been doing for a good 5 months now, is going to focus with Melissa Terrell on children's stories. So that's a lot. If you want to get ahead in reading Kamala Harris's book, The Truths We Hold, that will be the book group selection for mid-December, that third Thursday in December. Okay, lots of that going on. I'm going to light our chalice with the words from Emerson. The idea that there is wisdom about strewn like pennies all over the ground, and it is our task to lift them up. That's me paraphrasing Emerson. Of course, we all know he was a long-winded writer, and I edited it. So there we are. Okay. Today we have a special guest. We have, well, in my mind, he's most famously Godfrey's son, but he is way more famous than that. We have a child of the church, Wayne Purnell, Dr. Wayne Purnell, who is an executive coach, a writer. He's on TED Talks, lots of stuff. He is, I love the phrase, he is an outfluencer, right? Influences, changes us. He's an outfluencer like we in this church aim to be. He's an author. He's, like I said, podcast. He's been selling executive leadership books, lots of stuff. While earning his doctorate in clinical psychology, he began working on leadership development as sort of his focus. Now lasts 35 years or so, and he trains executives. He's the president of a group called Dynamic Leadership, and has founded a group called Starts With One. And you can get a little wrist. It talks about starting with one. So he's employing those unique values in his own unique way. His friends and clients call him Dr. P, and he's known for being insightful and engaging. So we'll find that out today. He's going to tell us a funny story about playing football here on campus or thereabouts, and he is in the business of connecting people one-to-one, and the kind of magic that happens when people relate to one another. I think of his talk as being that dynamic where I meets we. So we're grateful to have him, and that's all upcoming. We're going to hear from Severin, who's going to play us a hymn and return to our children's moment after that. I'd like to invite our children forward for our children's moment. Right here on the rug is where you would be, and if it was not for a pandemic, you should be. So there's a hero of mine, a couple heroes of mine. Martin Luther King and Thich Nhat Hanh were incredibly brave people, lovely people. They choked me up just to say their names, and they both spent a fair bit of time in jail for good causes, not for the causes some of us spend time in jail for. And Thich Nhat Hanh wrote this piece called Walk Like a Free Person. And to me, it's a very simple lesson. So if you're a kid out there, I want you to sort of stand up and just kind of close your eyes. And Thich Nhat Hanh went into a prison compound as a result of his nonviolent resistance. And he began. He goes, I realized when I walked mindfully, when I thought about where I was, I noticed that the quality of the air was the same inside this prison. It was an outdoor prison he was in, as the air outside the walls. And he looked at the sky and he noticed that it was the same sky above those walls and above their heads as it was when he was on the outside of those walls. And when he looked at the grass and the flowers, which he could see that they were the same. There's a phrase, you can take the weather with you. And I think that that's the message of this. Each step he took inside that prison, he said it offered the same kind of solidity and freedom that I experienced when I was on the outside of those walls. And he said there's nothing that can prevent us from successfully bringing freedom and solidity to our lives. Now that we're at home, we can be very frustrated easily, right? We can't see our friends at school. You can't play with the kids in the neighborhood in the same way that you could. You can't play sports like you could. It's a hard time. But one of the things that we can control, the most control we have, is the way that we approach things. And when you're young, it's a great time to learn that lesson. Always think about taking the weather with you as much as you possibly can, and bringing the freedom and stability in your life to others. So let's take a minute to just quietly, don't go too far so you fall, but let's just take a few quiet steps. And remember that all those steps are the same in a pandemic and outside a pandemic. We can bring the same peace to our lives in almost any time. That is within our control. That is one of the freedoms that we have. And he is a Buddhist, so he's a follower of Buddha. And he said, if we're depressed, the Buddha advises that one thing we can do is look into the nature of our depression, or what makes us sad, or what frustrates us, or anything. We don't have full control over that, but we can certainly have some. And he says to not feed it the food that anger or anxiety needs, and that's our own anger and despair. So, stand up straight, be the best person you can be, and as we're going to hear from Wayne, take that person and go out and influence it into the world. That is your commission from this church. You get to pick how and why you do that, but we are commissioning you to be strong people, as strong as you can be, and that is what we gather to talk about on Sundays. We talk about the variety of all the ways people are. We always talk about that, but we always bring it back to the fact that we're compelled to be good people in our own way. So, be strong inside yourself. Try to become mature from where you are, and think about your duty from this church is to be a solid, good human being. I'm going to take a minute to light a candle for joys and concerns. So, it's hard not to think first about the coronavirus. And we know that over the last week, 7-10 days, there's been 1 million people who have contracted this virus, which is a big jump from where it was, higher than the numbers that it ever were. So we've got various different people sick with levels of things in this church, but we're going to set this candle alight for all those who have gotten the coronavirus and maybe even will. Let's stop for a minute to try to prevent that disease from spreading, to be as safe as we can reasonably be, to stay inside, and to be compassionate about those who have misfortune come their way. Let's take that thought for just a minute of silence for a world that's been hurting in a way it hasn't been from a pandemic for 100 years. Pray that we're wise and we are prudent about preventing it, and we're smart and disciplined enough to not be spreaders. Thanks. This prayer I'm offering is from Bruce Southworth. He says, "O creative spirit of life in which we live and move and have our being, we give thanks for caring friends, compassionate neighbors, We give thanks for the communion of those who seek to serve others, that big communion of helpers in this world. Each of us, he says, carries our private griefs and burdens, and we know that that's true. Sometimes we can share those, and sometimes we can be the receiver of those. We can be open hearts to receive that pain, which is healed by its sharing. Bruce says, sometimes the world bears heavily upon us. We struggle alone. We search the depth and long for healing, for renewed hope, for strength which gives grace and peace. May we be strengthened in efforts to be of service, as we just talked about. And may we always be mindful of our lives when they're filled with privilege, success, and joy that is largely excluded from others. May our prayer be that we always see clearly and keep before us the commandment to care. May our prayer be that we always see clearly and keep before us the commandment to care. And may we always try to be inclusive and not exclusive and narrow as to who and what we care about. May our spirits and bodies be nurtured, nourished, and give thanks and praise for all those that heal us and sustain us. May we be mindful of all that we rest upon. All, he says, that is holy. And we take those thoughts for prayers and we add to them our beautiful music from our own Severin. Our reading, designed to set up for Wayne, comes from Sam Leibowitz. He says, modern society teaches us to be self-reliant, to go it alone to be the leader of the pack. But a new way of looking at our lives that is actually very old is to build things together, to bring our work into the community, to find our tribe and evolve collectively. He asked a simple question that Wayne will ask of us. What could we do if we included other people? What I knew ideas could sprout if we made ourselves a communal agent. When we come together to other people, regardless of whether it's for personal or business reasons, something new is created. Something greater, something that exceeds the sum of the parts. And this is in part because we're social creatures. We're meant to live and work together. Our advantage is that we don't do things alone. We've evolved to be an us. How better could we support one another if we did more together, if we connected? What new challenges would be present if things were not on each other's individual shoulders? There's something magical that happens when two souls come together. Wayne's going to talk about that. A larger, greater energy is created, a new perspective can emerge. When we take the time to bring people together and to be a person who brings themselves out into the world to invite others, the oldest thought religiously there really ever was, we tend to come together and not be driven apart. We find more and new alignments. We find the tribe gets bigger and our values feel broader. We find we don't want to fight against one another quite as much, not to dominate, but to share and grow and to shine our light brighter. Amazing things happen when we come together. And I invite up Wayne to share with us his thoughts on that, his experiences, and his wisdom. Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you. My mask says, starts with one. I am Dr. Wayne Purnell. I'm known as the Outfluencer and Powerful Presence Mentor. And Reverend Steve, it's a pleasure to be here. And to be here with you, thank you. I want you to wind back the clock from what you see here. I'm a scrawny 6-year-old. And the bigger guys tell me that if I get the football, I'm supposed to sneak through everyone. Those were older teens and adults that had let me on the field with them. I'm supposed to take the ball, hold on tight, and run like heck. Now remember, I'm 6, I'm scrawny, and I've been given the ball by one of the big guys. Yep, I hold on tight. I catch sight of the end zone, whirling around, and I see where I'm supposed to run, and I run like heck. People are chasing me. People are yelling. I'm hearing their cheers as I run my little legs off. I don't notice that they've stopped chasing me. I'm elated to find the end zone. I did it! I did it! I played football for the first time. And I did it. And then I turned around to find that everyone, both teams, they were standing pretty much where I left them. And they were waiting for me to return. It turns out that I run the wrong way with the ball. And their cheers and their yelling, they weren't cheers at all. They were trying to tell me to stop. So I had 2 thoughts. Why would I run through a wall of bigger guys towards something that I couldn't even see? And the second thought was, if this is really Sunday school, do I have to come back? Yeah, that happened here. That happened here, the PUC. I think the field was, I was 6. I don't know, but I thought it was down there somewhere. There's a field near here, and things have changed over the decades. Anyway, it's been a few years. I'm a little older, a lot taller, and I'm no longer scrawny. So what did I gain over the last several decades that I didn't have then? Perspective. It's that simple. I didn't have perspective as that 6-year-old. I didn't see another end zone because there was a wall of people in front of me. In fact, we're often met with walls, and I found what seemed to be the obvious and so much easier answer. I think we all do that. We all do that. We think we know what we're aiming for. We think our actions are enough. And all too often, we miss the target because true perspective is missing. For example, these days especially, we're told to be kind. In fact, we know that it's important to be kind. What we're told is that we should hold the door for someone, pick up that piece of trash. We should move the shopping cart. In fact, we should even pay for the person behind us in line every so often. And that is kind. That's kindness. And that makes sense, right? It makes sense. We should do that. But I'd like to take you on a journey, and it's a journey that takes you beyond kindness. So imagine being kind. And then imagine connecting beyond kindness. What does that mean? Before I take you there fully, I'm going to interrupt your thinking for a second. You see, we have a problem. We have a problem. The problem is that we believe that we should do something. And that's where there's a terrible paradox lurking. It's what I call the paradox of we. Not long ago, I attended a gathering of people. The speaker at the front of the room offered some compelling ideas, and he noted that we should do something. And the thing is that we should. We should. But very often we don't. What I saw were heads nodding and mouths agape. We should do something. There was widespread agreement. Again, this is the paradox of we. The paradox of we. There was widespread agreement that we should do something. And after gathering had dispersed, no one, one more time, no one broke off with another to discuss implementing the idea that we should all engage in. We should, but we don't. Not until there's an accountable I. An accountable I. And that's where you come in, each one of you. It's only when you agree that you will take ownership of not only the idea, but the action, that a group of accountable I's become a collective, cohesive we. Here we are with Thanksgiving before us, and I believe that we have an opportunity. I'm thinking that just like that little 6-year-old on the football field so many years ago, we all might be running in the wrong direction because we're missing something. We're missing the opportunity to connect meaningfully. These days, we are distracted by fear, by doubt, by shame, anxiety. Those are distractions, and we miss the opportunity to connect meaningfully. And isn't it in real human connection that we find our true humanity? And our meaning. It's been said that our greatest gift and a key element for our existence is to bear witness in another's life. Simply, I see you. I see you. Wouldn't it be amazing if we actually contracted to affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person? And what would happen if we actually chose to engage in a free and responsible search for truth and meaning? That would be amazing, right? It would be, and engaging in that way would mean that we're supporting at least two of the Unitarian Universalist principles. Those were number 1 and 4 if you were keeping track. This is as Reverend Steve said, this is a way of contracting for caring. I love that term. I'm glad you used that. That's amazing. Every person brings with him, her, them, their own truth and meaning. And sometimes a simple connection. I see you, dear human. It's enough to reignite that. We let go of judgment and we step into acknowledgement, recognizing that each person, no matter who they are, has value and worth. This becomes a conscious act then. Connecting human to human becomes a conscious act. When you choose to step into lifting others deliberately, actively, positively, your conscious actions create ripple effects extending far beyond the simple immediate encounter. By igniting a spark in someone else, their torch gets lit in a way that they might not have otherwise been able to ignite that spark in others. Think about the last time you were in a grocery store. We're all wearing masks now, and what I notice is that people look down. There's no more eye contact. There's fear. The mask has become a symbol of fear, a symbol of status, a symbol of righteousness, and a symbol of fashion. And behind the mask is fear. But it doesn't have to be. There can be true connection. Not long ago, I was flying across the country for one of my VIP events. I help people with mindset and this message, lifting yourself and lifting others. It's a core concept I teach. On the flight, I was offered some amenities, and I politely accepted them. Several hours later, it was Vicky, the chief flight attendant, who came back to me to thank me. She told me that because I looked her in the eye when I said thank you. Those simple words, thank you, that I had made a huge difference to her for her flight and for her mood. She told me that my simple connection had made a difference in the way she interacted with other customers on the flight and the way she engaged with other crew members. My action, a conscious act of deliberately, actively, positively uplifting another, had affected her so deeply that she felt compelled to circle back to thank me. And then she asked about my bracelet. And it says, starts with 1, deliberately, actively, positively. I was wearing short sleeves at the time. We discussed what that meant, deliberately, actively, positively. We have the opportunity to engage with others meaningfully. Saying thank you is polite. Helping someone with their bag is kind. Connecting consciously goes beyond kindness. And that's where I'd like to leave you in thought and commitment. As an individual, it's time to commit to being conscious when you engage each other here, at home, at work, at the grocery store, or in the community. Imagine creating ripple effects that extend beyond engagement that you're having with another person, that positively impacts what that person feels. They take that positively and amplify it with every encounter. Right now, just look at someone near you. Just look right now. Just look at somebody. Hold eye contact for 2 seconds. Just 2 seconds. Think about how rare that is. Now, did you notice the other person's eye color? Did you smile? And here we go. Did you feel thankful for the exchange? That, my friends, brings us to this week, the week of Thanksgiving. We have so much for which to be grateful. We have so much for which we can give thanks. And then when we, as a group of accountable individuals, we choose to engage each other meaningfully, this happens. I see you, dear human, really does start with one. The notion of rehumanization it's our connections to each other, and it starts with one, it starts with you. So try it again, and either in your mind or speaking out loud, say, I see you, and I'm grateful for this connection. Let your eyes say that as you connect with somebody. This is your practice, the conscious practice of deliberately, actively, positively lifting another human. Thanksgiving is all about gratitude and connection. True connection is the foundation. It really starts with one. We should look people in the eye is a great concept, knowing that you truly make a difference when you, as an accountable individual and a good human, do so. That's action. 3 steps: look the other person in the eye, smile in a way that they can see you do so even from behind your mask, and use their name if you know it. Practice that here, practice that at the grocery store, practice that at work, and truly, where it matters most, practice that at home. I see you, dear human, and I'm grateful for the connection. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you.
Wayne's brother is standing outside there. In the spirit of we and I invite you to the offertory, and this very quick, simple phrase. There was a pastor. He said, we have all the resources we need in this church to make it thrive, move forward, create programming. Trouble is, it's all in your wallets and purses. So give generously and broaden the eye to a we. Steve Schlegel, Severin Bennett.
church is dedicated to the proposition that behind all our differences, beneath all our diversity, there is a unity that makes us one and binds us forever together, in spite of time and death and the space between the stars. We pause in silent witness to that unity.
May the blessing of love be upon you. May love's peace abide with you. May love's presence illuminate your hearts now and forevermore. So be it. Amen. Shalom. Salam. Namaste. And blessed be. And as we say, and now our service truly does begin. Please give generously to the church. Thanks, Severin and Stephen, for being here, and Wayne, join us for the 1 o'clock call, and check in on the website for all that's still going on. Thank you.